Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the PPL. It is the final week of this great competition, and of course, what would a competition be without its chariots to guide it through to victory? And we are the chariots today. You like that little metaphor there?
Well, are we the horses and
We
you're
are
the chariot driver?
Let's not get into specifics.
That's usually how it works.
We're the workhorses is what he's really saying. Well,
somebody's got to put in the hours, and the manpower here has increased. The horsepower, you could say as well. We've got Alan Iholdshift Donofrio joining us today. It's great to have you here. You made the trip down. Thank you for that.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I mean, I'm just a hop, skip, and a jump away, so it feels like it needed to happen at some point. What a better day than week 5, too. There's so much happening. I feel like I'm the one being treated here. I mean, I am, let's be real.
A little bit. It's pretty cool. We showed him the new studio. He enjoyed that.
Very
and
cool.
Gorweiser, welcome again today, bud. Got the Blues Clues notebook, as always. Well, let's get into what we have today. And, of course, you know it is the split format. I want to just overview for everyone who is just joining us today. It's kind of a momentous day. We have 3 teams that can participate in getting first and going to these lands and going to the Vegas trip. There's a lot of money on the line. But here's how it works. 5 weeks of competition. This is the 5th week, double round-robin format, best of 5 sets. So you've got to win 2, actually got to win 3 until you can claim victory in that one. The PPL Spring Finals coming up soon, then the Paladins Masters, then, of course, the Paladins All-Stars, and then all that transitions into the PPL Summer Finals. We'll have another season of PPL as well. And what do you guys get when you participate in this as a player? Of course, they get the salary, $20K at minimum, and then land performance bonuses, depending on if they win or how well they place throughout that process. It's very interesting because, you know, today, usually at the end of a season, you know what's going to happen. You have an idea of who is going to be first, what the seedings are going to be heading into these big competitions. Today, we don't.
Not even a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really going to be an interesting day. I mean, even as you look through the people who cannot qualify, you still have these really tight matchups that we're looking forward to. I mean, in specific, I'm looking at Splyce. This is the best opportunity that they have to get their first ever PPL win. So it's just a really exciting day through and through. All 4 games should be good.
Well, let's take a look at the standings so we can obviously elucidate the conversation we've been having even more so to the audience. 6-0 for G2. Team Envy now, with 7 games played, are 5-2. Renegades still have a game in hand, both G2 and Renegades, and they are in 4-2. Potentially today, because G2 Esports have 2 games to play, they can lose 2 games and potentially drop even out of the top 2, depending on how well Envy and Renegades perform. This is something that I think a lot of people did not assume would happen. Renegades catching wind, catching fire, and using both of those momentous natural movements to really propel themselves into a conversation here towards the end of the season.
And I think that's kind of the strength that we've been seeing from week 1 in Europe and North America. A lot of these teams that it was kind of like, well, you know, you picked up 3 new members. Are you really going to be able to keep up with some of these guys? G2 having the same team that they had last season, being able to kind of continue playing.
Right.
You're like, no, you're never going to be able to hold a candle to them. And now it's like, okay, you are actually right next to them, almost neck and neck at the point in week 5 that anything can happen.
Well, it's going to be exciting. You don't want to miss a game at all today. So let's take a look at the schedule so you know what to expect. Here are the order of the games today. Renegades are going to take on Splyce first. Big game for Renegades, must win, but also Splyce can throw a wrench in their plans because they've been playing pretty well. SK and Splyce will face off. This doesn't really go into the conversation of first place, but it will be great to see Splyce and SK face off. Then G2 Renegades, that's a big one, and G2 Envy, a really big money match at the end. Both of those teams having that game in hand. This is that game in hand, and if G2 win again, they should be looking good. But if Envy can reverse the results, then things will start to get interesting.
Well, especially when you consider how well Renegades played last week in specific. I mean, going into the first 3 weeks, it was kind of like, Renegades, are they just going to sit as the solid number 3 team again? And then they come out last week and blow everybody away, and they look better than they ever had before, period. So I'm excited to see if this is obviously a proving point for all 3 of those teams in the conversation for first. But for Renegades specifically, this could really throw a wrench into the set top 2, set 3, and then the set bottom 2. This could really open things up a lot.
A lot of potential troublemakers here, but before we get into any others, let's focus on Renegades and show you who exactly they'll be bringing into today's matchup. Out. He leaves Ash alone for the moment. Custody healing him up. Double kill for Fleetgoo. Will Renegade...
I mean, Hero playing out of his mind right now. Triple kill, the knockback to seal the game.
6 Loki with a big double kill, 1 on Umbrellas, 1 on Zulu, and it's 4 members. Loki with a triple kill. He's hunting, he's gonna get the quadra kill. There's, another one poisons. Boy, is he gonna get another? Oh, he's going to. Oh.
Again, is causing havoc. He might run into the stun here. He does. He gets fragged out by Viral.
Played.
Well, that's the Renegades. We don't have all of their pictures here, but those 3 guys are extremely important to this roster. They have been absolutely phenomenal. Viral kind of stole the show for me last week with his Efflorescence Grover, even his flexibility onto the pip. Overall, this roster has really come together in a way I wasn't sure it was going to when I started and looked at them at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that with the way they were playing, having 3 new members again, you kind of think, especially coming from the PGS, you're like, well, there's usually a gap between even the bottom of the top and the top of the top, I guess, for the PGS. And when they came in that first week, looked kind of shaky. It's like, okay, are these guys going to be the ones that they really wanted? Is it really kind of be an upgrade for Renegades?
Yeah.
Or are ClickU and Loki going to be the ones kind of carrying the team and trying to push it forward? But they have stepped up to the point where they are maybe sometimes outshining the veterans.
And to that point, Alan, you were talking a little bit. You nodded your head when I mentioned Viral. He did have a pretty shining week last week.
Huge. And I think when you take a look at the North American scene in specific, it has been the battle of the supports. Who can really step up? We saw a number of monster plays out of Vex. We see it time and time again out of Cuskcutie. And now Viral's sitting here saying, hey, don't forget about me.
That's right.
On these kind of off-kiltered picks. I mean, I think the most impressive thing about the Grover was just his ability, and it kind of just seemed like he was calling out the targets, from that mid to long range, saying, this is who I'm swinging at. You guys need to find a way to follow up, and they were doing it.
No, it was interesting, too, seeing yesterday how EU took it, and they tried to put their own spin with, Mouse Sports running Koa on that Deep Roots Grover. It didn't work as well for me. I really like the efflorescent style on the shorter maps. I think that gives you what you need. But another guy that I think has shown up here and has been that great secondary, tertiary damage dealer for them in flex role is Poison. Poison has been extremely excellent, I think, transitioning from the PGS into the PPL. You see his stats here on the screen. And to me, he reminds me of a guy that could be a Robert Ory for this team. A big shot winner. He's going to get you rebounds, going to get your points, but at the end of the day, he may come through with a triple kill that just saves it all.
And bringing the conversation, yesterday we were talking about how there were a few teams, specifically it was Virtus Pro, how they have a couple members that every now and then they stand out, but not all at the same time. It's always one or the other. In this case, you can see Poison being up there with the rest of the team, and I think that's really one of the keys. They have a lot of players that are helping lift each other up instead of either one just kind of standing out, hey, I'm getting triple kills, I'm getting quadras, I'm the one carrying. And because of that, I feel like they're a lot more comfortable working as a unit.
Yeah, see, for me, when you look at Poison and you look at the Renegades, what they were back last fall, it was just Loki and Kliku the entire time that were standing out. Now you have somebody else that can, as you mentioned, be that secondary, tertiary guy that really does bring that supporting role from the damage side of things. You don't have to rely on one person having that all-star game every single time through and through. You have another guy that can come in and be that all-star that you need.
And he's comfortable, not just on damage. He's comfortable on flexing to Fernando's and things like that. We've seen it. I've seen it in my games as well. Obviously, he's going to have success wherever you put him. But the idea for me is that can we, from this with Renegades, see them make these same types of climbs every single week? We see that with Mouse Sports. Every week they are improving. Renegades improved once, but it's kind of in their history, their DNA, to improve once and then stop improving. Improve big time again, and then where do they go?
Yeah, this is, I think, the launching platform for them. We look back to World Championships. They snuck their way in there, but now they have a chance to really earn it.
Yeah.
So when you look at their opponent in Splyce, you're looking at another situation to where this is, again, a new roster with a lot of, all-star potential. You bring in Ricotta, and he's got this ability to be that huge flanker that you want. And, Will, when you look at the rest of that roster, they really do look shades greener than they did previously as far as how well they're kind of growing as one another.
And that's just, I think, how comfortable the team has gone. It feels like it's a different roster, and especially in the sense that they are growing. And I feel like it hasn't been major improvements. Like you said, it's not like it's big leap and then maybe a small leap and a small step moving forward. But I think that this is definitely the week they have to step it up. And with the way things have been going, I'm assuming that they've been studying their opponents pretty well, just because there's a lot on the line for them. I mean, if they can win this easily, then they're going to make themselves huge names.
Yeah, and I think Renegades, again, transitioning over to Splyce and that conversation with them, I think Splyce do still have a lot to prove, but they've got a lot of tools in the toolkit, so to speak. I'm feeling pretty confident. It's like the world's ending, but I've got my shelter on the basement ready. I got all the beans I'm going to need. It may be stinky after a while, but we are going to survive. And I feel like that's a good sign for them to be. Obviously, bottom of the charts right now, but trying to climb up. They could really throw a wrench in the plans of Renegades by getting a win here, performing better than maybe even Renegades expect, and that would be trouble.
It's one of those, it could be a feel-good week for Splyce.
Yeah.
You know, you could wrap up your season, the spring split on a very high note, and then you can get yourself some momentum to go into that summer where, you are looking for another chance to qualify for another LAN. So that's going to be the really big story point for me is, can these 5 guys now finally look like a full 5-man team? Because it's been shades of it here and there. We have not fully seen it throughout an entire set.
Completely agree. Let's take a look at Splyce and their lineup as they head into Game 1.
Could be a big trade here. Nice dome shield from Wardoom. Nice stun from Arai.
And like you said, it's a 90%. They can just continue to push this after they take down 2. They take down 3 with the shot in the air as Moonchopper coming in.
He's going for another reanimate coming online.
Now it has to be perfectly timed. Slither William picks up another 2.
There you have it, Splyce. Moonchopper, one of the funnier names to say. It flows off the tongue. Arai, Vayne, Ricotta, William, they've all been excellent this season, I think, and grown as a unit. Vayne, Ricotta, and William coming from the PGS and actually making a very big difference. A Moonchopper joining them in the fall LAN of last year in November, trying to, I think, make some waves, and they did make a little bit there, but this season's really been a change for, I think, the direction of Splyce and where they've been headed.
And I think for this matchup as well, the way things were, especially the last time they played, Splyce looked really solid the first 2 games against Renegades, but the biggest problem came down to the fact that once Maeve was banned out, they didn't really have a leg to stand on. Moonchopper was really the one kind of carrying the team at that point, but because he was doing well, everyone else looked really solid, and that's kind of that moment where you don't want just the one key opening the door for everyone else to look like a team. You need to be a very solid roster. I think they've worked on it. They've gotten a little bit better, and this is going to be an interesting matchup because they did take so much the first time around, but Renegades have just gotten better since then.
And Alan, to toss your way, Vayne's a guy I want to talk about here because, Ricotta, Moonchopper, Arai, he's been around for a while. Williams came from that kind of historic Purity team, which had their rise. Vayne's the only guy who hasn't really had his moment yet, but a really solid player, and he's been playing very well over these last few weeks.
The biggest downside that I've had about Splyce in their history is flexibility, and Vayne is the one guy that really amplifies that for the squad. He can play just about anything at a high level. Of course, his frontline play throughout this entire season has been really solid. He's been hitting a lot of really good things, especially with this new kind of meta that we're seeing where it's sometimes down to a one frontline composition.
Yeah.
He's really holding his own very nicely considering how fresh he is to the PPL.
And that flexibility, how crucial is that going into, this set as well? Renegade's a relatively flexible squad, and the way that they've been taking ClickU off of the front lines to fit into this triple DPS meta that's developed around Genos, Splyce are going to have to answer in kind. They're going to have to be prepared. So I'm curious how he continues to perform today. We'll be keeping a keen eye onto Vayne as we head into this. But, we're starting to get into it, guys. I want to know, what are your overarching feelings of going into this set? Who's feeling what? Who's feeling who here?
I feel like Renegades right now is probably a little nervous just because of how much is riding on the line. Because they know, again, the last time they went up against Splyce, even though they won the set and they made the last 3 games look crisp and clean, the first 2 games were not in their favor. And so coming into this and you're trying to think, we need a 3-0. Like, if we want to keep ourselves in any kind of conversation, we need a 3-0 right here. And you've seen what they're capable of, and I feel like Splyce has been getting better with the rest of the crew, so it's a kind of dangerous position to be in.
See, for me, weeks like this with pivotal matchups coming up where every single game matters, like you mentioned, it comes down, for me, experience.
Yeah.
We see it so often in these international lands where it gets to the 6th, 7th, sometimes into major overtime situations. And that's sometimes not the case. If you get yourself kind of buckled down and you're really nervous about it, like Will mentioned, it's going to be a situation where Renegades might just crumble. Splyce has nothing to lose. That's the biggest thing here. They don't have anything to lose.
And that's the scary part for Renegades, because they've got everything to gain, everything to lose. Splyce are kind of playing, hey, it is what it is. Let's pick whatever. Renegades may experience something that they haven't played against before today, because Splyce say, why not? Let's try it. It's no skin off our back.
Right.
In that same vein, Renegades could have a nice 3-0. It could show and set the tone for how they expect to perform today as well. Pip and Genos ban from Splyce, and a Shaolin Cassie ban. Makoa, Ruckus, everyone's on the board.
The thing that I think stands out to me most overall, other than obviously the top picks still being available and Ruckus getting locked in, but that's a lot of flanks that are still open. A lot of DPS that Moonchopper really likes to run, that a lot of members really on Splyce would be comfortable playing. And so you kind of give them a little bit of saying, you can have what you like, but also here's some of the stuff that's really good on top of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see. This is one of the only drafts I can really think of in recent history where there's no front lines ban whatsoever.
Yeah.
And this is the interesting thing now that we have the double bans up front is you can start to see teams are saying, all right, we want to get rid of support, or all right, we want to get rid of damage. And that's what we're seeing here is Splyce is getting rid of 2 supports they don't want to go up against, while Renegades is not wanting to deal with the Cassia or the Shaw. But as you mentioned, Will, I mean, again, you're looking at Moonchopper, you're looking at Ricotta, who are very damaging on those flanks, and everything is open for them, and they're going to have a solid front line to back it up, too.
It's interesting here because obviously when the commodity is healers and Pip and Genos are on the board, people kind of rush to grab those. But now, as you mentioned, front lines, those are taking first 4 picks. Everyone wants their share. And I almost question here, unless you're thinking Renegades are going to go triple frontline, do you need to take the Inara there with the Zen? Could you pair that with your healer or your damage flex that you're more interested in now?
Well, the thing that kind of stands out to me is the way that they're kind of drafting it. Because you can see Splyce, they have, I want to say, Inara's not normally aggressive, but with the way Vayne plays Inara, it's very aggressive overall. So they kind of have front lines that want to be in your face. But the same thing goes for Renegades. And now with the way they've been able to kind of pick up the Maeve, pick up the Grover, I think that's going to enable them a little bit more, especially for this map. Maeve might have a little bit of trouble getting around sometimes, might get caught out. But Grover being able to lock people down for her makes it a little bit easier.
How do you feel about the Grover here?
You know, it's very nerve-wracking because as a solo healer on such a very hard map to penetrate when it comes to the point capture specifically, Grover might not have the best influence. But here's the other side of things. Now that Splyce has finished off their roster, who's going to be taking blast, to be able to blast through these shields?
A Bomb King is here. I mean, there's a possibility for a BK. And against Ruckus and Inara, that's a pretty solid pick. Can Renegade flex onto it, though? That's where we need to see how they can perform. Talus is going to get taken. To me, this just says they are not confident playing the Bomb King. I think if this is EU and you look at any European team, they grab a BK there.
100%. And I think at this point for Splyce, who's going to break these shields down? I mean, Makoa and Fernando are going to have such longevity in those shields at the moment. It's going to be really tough. Ruckus is going to have one heck of a game down there in the trenches because his damage output has to be right in the face of Makoa and Fernando when those shields do go down.
This is a nutty lineup, man. Makoa, Fernando on the same squad. Talus riding around with Maeve and Grover. Renegades have to get this win. They've got to win this set to be in contention for that top 2 spot. But let's take it to game 1. It's about to begin our last day of the North American PPL.
Welcome, everybody. Tigers here with Pretty Hair. It is time for Game 1 between Splyce and Renegades.
And boy, what a way to start things off. Makoa and Ruckus make it through. We're starting it out on Ice Mines. The Renegades have taken away this Maeve, which has kind of been the bread and butter, I feel like, of Splyce. While at the same time, still, that's funny. I misspoke and said slice, but also saying bread. But anyway, they pick up the Grover as well, which has been a big part of their success recently, and like this new thing that they've got going, that just hear me out type of strategy. Viral told us in his interview last week, but I'm really curious if this is going to be working out for them. And I think Alan brought up a good point. It is a hard to penetrate map, and that's going to be good for Grover. That he's not going to, I think, get too much pressure placed on him. We'll have to see.
Well, everybody, remember to vote for who you think is going to take the set. Is it a like for Splyce or a heart for Renegades? And this is a very important matchup, particularly for Renegades, and moving forward to attempt to get themselves in the highest seeding possible for them.
They are in the running, and a quick, clean victory here. Took them all 5 games last time. They're hoping to do it at least a little bit faster. This is a must-win. If they lose this game, they will be out of the running for land. So hopefully they can catch that W and keep themselves on track for Vegas and, of course, the Masters land potentially, because it's going to be either, I don't know if they talked about this on the desk, but Envious or Renegades will have the 3rd best record out of both North America and EU, excluding the teams already invited. So one of those 2 squads will be joining the lineup for the Superstars event in Las Vegas in just a couple of weeks.
When we were going through kind of the matchups for this week, when it came to this one, found it so interesting how they both decided to bring out the Grover, 2 of the first teams to do it. Some of the picks have went on both sides. You see Maeve going on to Poison right now, and having that clash, it adds that interesting nuance, not just in the draft, but here on Ice Mines, where we've seen Splyce succeed in the past. For early clashing going on, and right outside of the door and taking a lot of damage getting walled in.
So I'm always very curious to see where Viral positions on this Grover, because he is a very position-intensive character. The healing comes from the character itself. He can't put it on others. He can't place down a totem or anything like that. You have to be near Grover. He's a walking, talking, healing totem. So position is going to be key for Viral in this matchup.
Splyce are the first ones to step onto the objective. 30% climbing. Moonchopper on the Zin currently and actually getting some nice hits here, but running into those shields that we talked about.
And they aren't really having too much trouble. Obviously not getting through them quickly, but the Renegades, they're just sitting on back on their haunches. They're looking for something. They're looking for a pick. I feel like they're waiting to get lucky almost. They're really not taking initiative in this fight.
By occupying that space, First Blood actually goes over to Loki, taking down William, and Renegades can maybe make this their opportunity to move forward, standing strong onto the objective, and the rest of the members of Splyce have actually backed up a bit.
And there's that second key pick coming through now. Poison getting a little aggressive. He's going to reset his cooldowns. Dash back out. This is the positioning that they were waiting for. Renegades extremely patient, give up 81% on the objective, but do get what they came for. William got a little bit too comfortable on Ruckus and found himself picked off.
And looking at the way it has happened so far, it wasn't just, hey, here's this team wipe, let's move forward. Activating the Midnight right now to try and get some more kills onto it, but the Dread Serpent thrown to add a little bit of separation. Overtime going strong, but those individual picks added some nice value.
They really needed to take that Inara down, and they did eventually. Could have happened a little bit quicker. Renegades still get it done. When it's all, the dust starts to settle here. William falls as well. The picks continuing to come through for the Renegades. That was a great engagement, and the Midnight from Poison was super on point. That's basically the ideal scenario for a Midnight, when a team has to push in to try and retake the objective, and you just completely cut off their vision. They can't really form a strategy. They just have to go in literally blind.
Nice use of the ultimate from Moonchopper. Take down one of the largest targets. And early on, before you get those Hi-Rez, before you get those Wreckers really starting to build up, that's why some of these kills are taking a bit longer. But as time goes on, it should be a bit swifter in their approach to it.
Yeah, and I mean, Street Justice Maeve is one of the burstiest builds in the game, so being able to take this Inara down, once you get her to low HP, that's where Street Justice starts to shine. That's where your burst damage really starts to come through, and it will be able to penetrate a lot of the defense that she's able to put up, but Inara still one of the tankiest in the business.
William almost falls and might actually get collapsed upon right now by the two flanks. Loki does pick up that kill, so 3 down for Splyce. They've got a whole minute and 20 seconds to go ahead and push this, continuing with that action, and now just collapsing upon this Inara Vayne. You are running into some trouble.
And that's what makes it so difficult, is normally that's the time when she gets low HP that she's going to pop that Earthen Guard, start getting a ton of healing. Yes, that's still going to happen, but the added amount of burst that Maeve is going to be able to throw into that equation, I just don't know if Inara will be ready for it. The Renegades will convert in the first round.
Very convincing within those last moments, I would say, halfway through the capture and on, because early on Splyce, they made their presence be known. They decided to go in that huddle and approach Renegades that way and lock them in. But as soon as Renegades were okay with taking a bit of time, let's get a couple picks and then start to push them back.
You know, very flank-heavy draft from Splyce here. The Zin and the Buck, 1-3, 0-4, and just a 1-kill round for Splyce overall. Definitely tough there, and Ice Mines, to me, not a big flanker map necessarily. You saw the way that first fight happened. It was very just, it's all happening in this one doorway. We're just crashing into each other over and over until something gives. There's not a lot of room to work with on the point for Ice Mines here. But, you know, Maeve, yes, being a flanker, but being one of the most effective mid to long range flankers because her daggers have no fall off. She can just throw these across the map, across the way. And Midnight, great use of that again.
Right early off, and actually the Seismic Crash baited out from that, ends up missing. Here's a wall to separate everything, but a Dread Serpent activated as well. Moonchopper using the ultimate to take out Hero. Maybe Splyce can use this momentum.
Perhaps they'll use a pick. They've got the opportunity now. Vayne's going to push out, but he's low HP, so he's really not in a position to get too aggressive here. Moonchopper's going to try and do his job for a little while, eating a ton of burst damage, just not prepared to deal with what Street Justice Maeve is serving up.
They were talking on the desk about how Poison has really been able to have an impact in these games, and he's continuing to do so. Aside someone like Loki, who's also just been known to steal the show at points, Poison's keeping up very nicely.
It's crazy to see this Street Justice Maeve work so well against Splyce, who were kind of the team who, I almost want to say, coined this. They brought this out a couple of weeks ago and ran it every single game until it got banned. Poison on a 15 streak. He's going to fall back. He's done his job, and the tanks are going to finish up the zone, and Renegades will be on their second offense in a row.
The idea of using a pick that not all teams are ready to encounter doesn't really apply here because they are very ready for the Maeve. And that's the third point going over to Renegades. time for them to push and taking very similar approach.
As well as it's worth talking about Splyce, not exactly a map that they're bad at. I would say, you know, they're actually pretty decent here on Ice Mines, and the fact that they are down 3-0, risking the potential first game going 4-0, that's a big, big momentum swing. It's going to affect their mentality, I think, going forward in this set. And with so much riding on the line for Renegades, you don't want to let them get off to a good start.
Another hit onto Click. You followed up on Poison. Moonchopper with the double. Ricotta actually going and focusing on that support. And these are actually few key members on the side of Renegades to fall. But they're going to regroup. Minute 45 to go.
I actually want to take a look at this Buck loadout here while I've got a chance. Looks like it's still going to be that bulk up style. Saw a little bit more of the ensnare style yesterday, and maybe that could have been something that could have been a potential to look at here, because there is a lot of that mid-range boxing out, not a lot of flank routes, especially early on in Ice Mines. Now that dynamic feature, the gate opens up. It looks like the Renegades have used it entirely. One pounce here would have been enough to clean up the Buck, but Poison just does it with the daggers.
Yeah, just circled around in a nice hook to help secure some of these kills as well. One by one, falling on the side of Splyce. And this might be the chance to go ahead and push it. And I really do like seeing that approach, because ever since those gates have come down, we haven't really seen anyone fully take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So maybe let somebody sneak through a flank or two. But right there, everyone except for Poison pretty much just corralled themselves through.
Very decisive. Here's the loadout for Viral, who runs that Effervescent Grover style where he's just solo healing it up. Let's take a look actually at the healing charts, see where Viral stands at this point. He's got two big beefy frontliners to heal. He's way out in front of Maldamba, about 40,000 or so.
And throws it nicely onto the frontliners, which has been very helpful in keeping Renegades into this fight. William caught off on the high ground, forced to put his nukes up, but Moonchopper takes down ClickU on the opposite side. 1-for-1 trade, 20 seconds to go, with still a lot of ground to cover for the payload.
Gets in there, guillotines away one of the frontliners. Very effective against Leviathan McCohen, who's all about his big bad HP pool. Now respawn. The Renegades have 10 seconds to get this overtime started. But are they going to be too interested in spending ultimates here? Viral finds a pick on a Moonchopper, so if they take down Viral here as well, it could be a good opportunity for them to actually hit the gas pedal.
Looks like there's a little bit of follow-up as well. Poison getting one onto Vayne. Overtime still going strong. Poison is rotating around, putting those long daggers off to the wayside, actually forcing some retreat from the Damba.
There it is. Overtime's going to start here, but again, Splyce will have a chance to get back on their feet. Ruckus is spawning back in about a second or so. So once he's out, it will be full 5-on-5. Splyce, they need to hold this. They need to pop ultimates, but the Renegades are trying just as hard.
Yep, ultimates on both sides. Manages to get some hits. Loki taken out of the equation, but Ricotta ends up falling. William 355 putting in a little work on his own, and there's the true power being activated to actually get Loki back into this fight.
And that's just about every ultimate from Splyce and from the Renegades. Just Immortal and Seismic Crash are online, but these Splyce ultimates are actually kind of starting to recharge here. Kliku finds two. This could still go Renegade's way, even though they are on their absolute last legs.
Oh, Ricotta, such great sustain from him to keep him in the fight. But yeah, that big, huge explosion where everybody was just dishing out their ultimates, and Renegades had some great moments, but in the end, True Power is really the only one that's going to bring you back in there after a death. So.
You know, I like that use of True Power there. He doesn't have it available for this round, but that was the most I think ideal scenario, the biggest map in the game. He crosses just an absolute colossal amount of distance there. Loki gets back to the fight. They almost brought it back too, so I mean, how sick of a play would that have been if he was able to actually do it here? Loki running Transient as well. This used to be based on one of Talus's talents that was pretty much the most popular one. Most people run Evanescent at level 5, but he's taken the cooldown reduction instead of that, so he'll have a lot of uptime in this fight. And with the new style of talents coming through, the inner strength being more popular than Faustian Bargain nowadays, I actually kind of like that he's back to the old ways of high CDR on his pretty much important ability.
Very different approach from both these teams, and there's actually the early spike, doesn't get the kill off of it. Loki actually locking on nicely. William 355 takes a fall.
That was actually so huge. I don't think Moonchopper expected Loki to walk out in front of that. He wanted Kliku there. He wanted to slay this man with his ability, but no, he just gets hooked straight out of his spike. Kliku completely dismantled that push there, and I don't know if Splyce are going to be able to recover.
And here's actually an attempt to do so. A couple ultimates coming out on the side of Splyce, but Renegades attempting to answer to 1-for-1 trade so far. William taken out of the tunnel, but he's got mobility ability of his own, but it's not going to save him in this scenario.
Taking so much damage here. Kliku absolutely manhandling this backline. CCR reduction. It's crazy. 70% just shrugs that stun off. Gets the shot. Would have hit the hook as well, but Ricotta's already dead, and 99% for Renegades on the objective.
Anybody that is up on Splyce just wants to keep this battle going because it's 99% for Renegades, but it's just so deadly when you have them collapsing upon you. Kliku still very high in HP.
Ancient Rage just came up as well, and he pops it, so shrugs off the spike. Crazy, crazy play, and a triple kill from Hero down the stretch.
I'm looking to clean up even more. Buck, you're still around, but you're the only one, baby, but not for long. Poison finishing up with that double kill, and Renegades take it home.
Just a little, Moonchopper's ultimate's not going the way of Splyce that time around. Really, for the first time, it was unfortunate. Kliku, you got to hand it to him there. I think he popped his Ancient Rage to counter out and shrug off. You can't use Spite on a CC immune target. So even though he was still pretty healthy, the Ancient Rage there, preventing him from being taken down by Guillotine Zin. And then again, Loki at the start, because Makoa's so big, right? And then Talus just comes squeaking right through the legs to eat that first ultimate. And then Kliku, Zin's damage immune, but not CC immune. So he gets hooked out of his first Spite. Really, really unfortunate way for the cookie to crumble for Splyce in game 1.
Well, we know that Renegades are looking for the 3-0 to keep themselves in that LAN conversation, and it's a good start for them so far. So, Desk, what do you think?
Well, super interesting here, the way that it is all unfolded. I think Renegades and Splyce had kind of a weird draft. I mean, leaving all of those front lines available, Alan, we talked about it, the Makoa kind of just dominated that game.
Makoa does that. We were talking about it while the game was going on. You give any character some way to pull out an enemy, and it's instantly viable. And, I mean, that was a star-studded performance by Makoa right there.
And it just ruins, like, a safe space. You have nowhere to hide. And that came down to the fact that, I mean, Vayne or Ruckus, anyone, Anara being able to get pulled out. And usually you're tanky, you're kind of safe, you can fall back behind your damage dealers at least to push that damage away. They never had that. They were always in the forefront, always getting just bullied. And because of that, you couldn't see an impact from Vayne.
My question, Goring, heading back into Vayne, right? He took the Inara, and you could tell it's a comfort pick, right? It almost is too much of a comfort pick, I felt, because, they have their Makoa Fernando. They are not, it doesn't feel like they're going triple tank. I don't feel you have to ward off that and grab the Inara. That might have been a concern of theirs. Renegades might have run it, but I feel like you can grab a DPS there, or you can grab a priority healer that you feel more comfortable with instead of picking for Vayne in that 2-3 slot.
And I think that was really the key, was just why so soon. Like, Ruckus, absolutely, you need him first. You don't want to give Ruckus away, and you absolutely want to bring that onto your roster. But then Inara, you're going to be looking at a healer later on. She's not going to be a priority, like you said, for them. So kind of sitting there, it felt very much like I need the Inara to feel comfortable for this, or I need the Inara to perform well, because we haven't seen Vayne as much flexing around the way he used to in the PGS, and I think that's kind of where Splyce's comfort is coming in. It feels, like you said, too comfortable.
Yeah, and when you have a Ruckus as well, that's such an easy target for Makoa. You just throw one of the crippling axes on from Grover, and he's stuck there just as much as Inara is when it comes to the mobility damage charts. It just there's too much going out of the positioning for Splyce right there. Renegades just had all complete control.
It was a lot. The Grover worked. Grover definitely worked, and I think this is, again, seeing that style of Grover play. And Splyce realized that they're going to actually ban it out. Do you think it's worth a ban? I mean, this opens up the pip now, Core.
If it wasn't on this map, if they were going to like Frog Isle or somewhere that's a little bit closer, I'd say absolutely ban it. You're going to Splitstone Quarry. I don't know if it's going to be as potent. I mean, there's a lot of small, like, close quarrels on this map.
It's weird because
kind of feels
a
like
meta ago, you would never have said that. You said the opposite. You'd say the opposite, right?
Everything's backwards now.
It'd be Ferocity Grover and say, oh, God, ban this guy out here. And now, it is the Blossom. Still potent. The other thing, though, notably, I love bringing up this point. Grover's actual scaling does not work against normal shields, but it works against personal shields like Ruckus, and that happened to be who he was going on. So it's just a little bit of a favorable trade for him as Splyce take the first pick Ruckus, and I'd expect him to Makoa Fernando again. But they're going to go Strix. Okay, that makes sense because Kinessa's banned.
Because Kinessa's banned away. I'd be interested here just because of how good the pull into Cripple was for the Makoa-Grover combo. If we don't see a Makoa-Torvald combo coming up here in the near future, that would be really spicy. But this is another point we talked about was the Zin pick and his ability to just get in your face and then immediately back up. Moonchopper was doing everything he possibly could have to make that Xin have that frontline presence. But again, when you're dealing with a Strix, who you're never going to really find, especially on this map, that's a juicy target for any Strix player.
It certainly is, and I love the Pip here. I think Pip is he just can float. He's a midfielder. If you're going to look at soccer, I think it's the best analogy of what Pip is. He's a midfielder. He's on the defensive side, sometimes helping out with the front line, helping out on the point. Sometimes he decides, hey, I need to take this to the goal myself. He's going to weightless over on the corner, put some pressure out on Strix. I mean, a Catalyst Pip is going to destroy this, and there's the question. Do they accent this with something else? Do you think, Gore, another healer's coming out? Is this going to be a Mega Potion Pip?
If Moldamba was available, I was thinking they were going to try to kind of double it, allow him to get a little bit more aggressive, because then the answer for Renegades has to be, how do we save Strix? Like, how do we keep him protected from Xin and Pip, especially if they come from opposite sides, split the attention? And that kind of comes down, I think, to where Makoa, again, Fernando, being a little bit more aggressive, being able to maybe take those fights for him.
Yeah.
But it's really up to them. If they want to go Saris, I guess she's all right, but it's just one of those things that it doesn't feel like it's going to be as strong. I think they're getting really aggressive, though.
I mean, I think this is Mega Potion. Pip and Inara were that top 2, top 3 pick for a while. It would be Genos and then Pip and Inara trying to basically counter out with whatever you got. Now Renegades have a chance to last pick. You know, I mean, we could see something come through. It's the Shaolin is open. Who would have expected 10th pick Shaolin there?
This is actually insane when you think about it. Because Splyce took your advice. They did not pick the Inara early. They took it later this time. But the problem here is Xin and Talus are going to have to dive into that strict Shaolin, and Makoa and Fernando are going to be happy to sit on point and take this battle against Ruckus and Inara every single time. Yeah. This is, I think this is tough. You know, to go up against a Makoa, Fernando, or even, as we mentioned, possibly a Torvald. You put Makoa with any other big frontliner, that's just a lot of body to pull through.
It's too much almost. I mean, and when you talk about the Ancient Rage, I mean, that ultimate, one of those ultimates that you always know has game-changing potential, usually has its natural predators in the meta, like a Drogoz here and there for those one-hit KOs, but he's been gone. I mean, he's just free roam. That's why you don't see the turtle given up in this meta, but it's 2 games in a row that it might be going to click you. Let's send it back to our casters here for game 2 and see if it works just as well.
And we saw the impact of Makoa in game number 1.
They didn't learn their lesson.
Yep,
I think Makoa's going to punish him again here. That was
really,
really good stuff. I mean, there was a really great play from Kliku down the stretch, the reactive ball and all that stuff, but he didn't really miss many hooks, and that's really the only conversation that has changed about Makoa. He's pretty much stayed the same, lost a little bit of health. The hook is a little bit smaller nowadays, but Kliku is not having any issues with any of that.
Because when that change did go through, we talked about the fact that, well, when you're in the level of the PPL, for those players in particular, it's not going to be as impactful, the fact that that hitbox has been
Deal's
minimized.
not missing. Kliku's not missing.
Nope.
None of these players are really struggling with that, I don't think, at this point. Plus, in some instances, you know, when you're boxing out with a Ruckus, you can use that hook at short range as just like a stun. It's just basically covering your refire time in between your cannon shots. So all these little things make Makoa such a difficult beast to battle against. So much HP, such a great weapon for the frontline class. And, of course, the big, bad Dredge anchor.
And we saw the impact where William355 got hooked in a few different scenarios, out of tunnels, out of high ground, and it just completely stopped the fight entirely, and Renegades would be able to collapse.
And I mean, look at this loadout. The character is just such a beefcake. All he just needs is more stats. He's going to pull William straight into the grinder off the start. Renegades with the first blood.
Oh, I've been waiting to see the meat fidget spinner used at some point in the PPL ever since they started going to this map a bit more often, and there we go. Talk about style. And meanwhile, Renegades 42% on the objective. Hero's chilling. He's looking to maybe get another triple kill in this game. Who knows?
Great use of his shield there. As soon as he's not under pressure, he drops it because it's a 15-second cooldown, and you want to make sure you have that up for the next full engagement, and he will. Meanwhile, these frontliners from Splyce are having to fight against the constant pressure, the constant threat of 1,200 from the Talon rifle.
Another great hook that led to Hero getting the last hit onto Moonchopper. And they're just able to rotate back over to the objective. Immediately, Talus retreating, but still found Kliku, gets the kill. And that's 75% and climbing. Every single hook is just hitting in the perfect way possible.
And it's not even just hitting. It's like he's trying to hook this Inara. She dies while it's coming at her, but things are okay because Ruckus is literally in the same trajectory. He gets pulled in anyway. Things are going well for Renegades, but there are those moments where it's like, wow, you know, they're getting the cookie crumbling in their way. There's a little bit of RNG, these things that are just going a little too right for the Renegades.
Vayne does pick one up, but still a lot of momentum to be had by Renegades, and a full 2 minutes for them to go ahead with this push. And that's one thing I feel like some Makoa players, they can hit the hooks and everything, but it's about getting some impact after it, not just displacing somebody, and every single time it feels so deliberate, so much potential.
Is Kliku just Rain Man with these hooks? He's like, well, if this person dies, there's another target behind them that will still get pulled if I go on this trajectory here, 32 degrees angle to the southeast, and there it is, another pull onto Ruckus. But he shuts that one down with the evil mojo. Rai not wanting to let his frontliners fall again.
And there's a spite used. Moonchopper picks up a second kill for himself. 3 down for Renegades. Lots of ultimates up and available if anyone wants to get into that territory anytime soon. Yeah, just imagine Kliku is that meme with the chick and all the numbers over
I know.
it.
I always think of that as well. It's one of my favorites. Oh, my goodness. He's calculated.
Bringing it to life.
He's completely in the driver's seat of today's matchup as well. Can I check Fernando's loadout as well? I want to see if he's running CCR. And you have to imagine that both these frontliners would want it. Yes, he does have a movable object 5. I mean, against the evil mojo, against the seismic crash from Inara, it's going to be really, really helpful for Hero and Kliku to not be able to be locked down and not to have to buy resilience.
Yep, and here we're seeing the full effect of this map as well. All these different ways where you can just peek out from a high ground or a side. I believe Rainday used cubby was the word.
Cubby.
Yeah, a little cubby, but Poison actually activating his ultimate. Finds a couple hits. You heard the true power on the side as well. Moonchopper picks one up onto Loki, and Poison with the long shot onto a ride.
Really great shot there while weightlessing. That's not easy to do. Gets the stun, gets the hop thing down, does the planted, but not enough damage to take Inara down. Probably the only champion in the roster that survives that onslaught. 25 seconds on the clock. The Renegades still struggling on this offense, but Splitstone Quarry, statistically, even with Ice Mines in the conversation, one of the hardest maps to push on.
Perspective looked so funny, though, when we were on Poison, and then William just dropped down in front of him and said, no. Protect Inara all that he can.
Got to be a real teammate here. Long distance hook. What a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers of a hook there. And then he goes back to peel for his teammates. Kliku is absolutely doing everything available in his kit to make the Renegades win this round.
Oh, boo, missed one hook. But I don't even care at that point. Yeah, he's just had so much going in his favor, and he seems to be everywhere, very responsive to his team and enemy positioning, but Poison's also been very impactful in these last couple games.
You can't have those A- performances, you know, when you're Kliku. Why'd you miss one?
Yeah, well, what's going on, man?
Gotta have the perfect score.
Ricotta actually got clipped off over on the side. There's another ultimate from Moonchopper.
But they bail him out.
Get traded.
It doesn't look like he's running Guillotine this game because he just dies mid-spike this time around. Killing spree for Poison, who's been very aggressive and very successful in flanking with Shaolin, getting to the back line, running the withdraw style, so he has more stealth to play with, and he's really been using it to make plays.
And even focusing where Arai got just targeted and didn't get killed but had to back off. In the end, Splyce do get the defense. They pick up the kills onto the frontliners, which is very important for them. That's part of Splitstone Quarry.
Very difficult to push and look at Kliku. What an absolute monster performance through the first round. Top damage.
The grind.
Hitting all these hooks, pulling idiots into the grinder off the map, and just so you really get a sense for that first blood there. Run it back a couple of times. A run and train on Splyce at the moment. Kliku 5-3, top damage, getting map kills, environmental kills, hasn't needed his ultimate yet, still providing good shielding for his team. I mean, the guy, he's doing it all right now.
It's got to be one of the most painful ways to die on a map like this.
Yeah.
Doesn't look very good. But
especially inside of a robot, you know, you're just getting crunched. Poor Ruckus, man.
Completely obliterated and smashed, but here's an earlier Evil Mojo. Still manages to survive, pops right out of it, and Dread Serpent on the opposite end. Hero into a bit of trouble. Still alive, though. Loki picks one up onto Ricotta. Nice healing coming from the rest of the team. And Poison continues. Loki with another one.
He doesn't make it out of this. Gabby, no. Gabby.
He's still there.
Hero.
He's still there.
How did he make it out of that alive? Hero just absorbed the full brunt of that Splyce onslaught. 1, 2, 3 ultimates, it feels like. All of the pressure makes it out barely by the skin of his teeth. These front lines from the Renegades are completely winning this game.
From the beginning of that fight, he got chunked down low, where it was kind of those thoughts of, okay, we might see his name pop up in the kill feed
and then he put
enough.
The spray down mid-flame lancing when he was like, he was still not out of the woods yet. He was still like 1,000 HP, if that. and he's got the confidence to spray. He knew that he was winning that fight. 90% for the Renegades here, and they've still got ults in the tank.
Ancient Rage was activated as well. Moonchopper taken out of it. So 90% to about 45%. True power used gets this man back into the fight, and Ricotta picks up a double kill.
That's huge. That dive by himself, Ricotta getting so much value, and then bails himself out of a bad situation. Is he going to just try and take a third with him? He'll put Hero on the back foot, lock him down. Great wall from Inara, and Splyce look to have just bounced back.
Hey, Hero's not always going to be immortal, and nor is ClickU. So this overtime trickling on down to the very end, and Splyce pick up their capture.
What an incredible resiliency shown by Splyce after the way that first fight went. You got to wonder, you got to think things were looking grim for them all around the table, but the Renegades, I don't know, they just couldn't keep their foot on the gas down there. Splyce, strong front line as well. Viral tried to keep everyone healed up as best he could, but it was not enough.
Yeah, immediately after all of that, it looked like Renegades got a little disoriented, but it's okay in those moments when you're at the very beginning of the push. So now regathering themselves.
And that's close to like a miracle dive from Ricotta as well. The fact that he gets 2 taken down there with that true power. Normally like solo true power dives into an enemy backline don't go that well for a Talus, but Ricotta picks up 2. And frankly, you want to give him credit for the third as well. He took all of Hero's HP, his shield, and then I think it was Vayne that ended up cleaning him up. But I mean, he does so much work for them to get them back in the conversation.
Poison. Some shots from afar. We see ClickU actually taking up a lot of damage, and ultimates used aplenty on the sides of both of them. Actually, Viral picks up a kill, and so does Loki. So a good opportunity to try and slow this pace down.
Landing good shots on everyone the whole while. And again, Poison not afraid to play aggressive when the situation calls for it here. One more shot on William. Would have been good. That was a stun, I think, from Viral on the high ground. Throwing the snake with great accuracy, even over a great distance to lock William down and burn even more time off the clock. And you saw how valuable that was in the first round. The Renegades just lost a couple of little hitch fights there, but it really slowed down their progress. And again, already at 50 seconds on the clock. Splyce don't have too much more time to mess around.
This is one of the many possible holding positions on this map. You've got this bridge with these 2 corridors that you can just pop out of on the side of the defense. And with this payload on the regression as well, makes it even easier for them. So Splyce grouped up, William taken out, and it looks like Moonchopper's in a bit of trouble as well. But can they get these kills?
Loki's got such a sick angle on the payload as well. With a front line in front of him, he really doesn't have to be in too much fear about the aggressive angle that he is holding, so that risk is going to reap the reward here. ClickU gets to the back line, and this is where things fall apart for Splyce.
You just lock him in a corner, baby. That's all you need to do. And now Inara in some trouble. But luckily, Vayne is able to slink away for a moment's time. Tried to get escorted by Moonchopper, but couldn't keep up to the man with the billows.
Can we look at this Maldamba loadout? I'm pretty sure he's got to be running Swift Spirits as well. So when ClickU's getting eliminations, he's getting 40%. For 6 seconds. That's the Rampage card there, but then this Maldamba loadout as well. Looks like he's stacking movement speed on top of that with Swift Spirits 5. So ClickU is cruising around this battlefield. He's a big body, but man, that boy can move.
Sliding as snakes tend to do.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you're looking at Hero, that's going to be really good. Like, Fernando sticking, that's why those popular cards like Running Start and Hot Pursuit are so good for Fernando, because he's able to use his low cooldown abilities to gain a lot of easy movement speed to stick to, because he has a little bit of a self-slow while he's hitting the flamethrower. But if he doesn't have to worry about that, if Maldamba can basically serve that purpose for him, that's what frees up space in this Fernando loadout to run that crowd control reduction and to run Brand 5, because he doesn't need to worry about those other things. They're really synergizing together as a team, even on the loadout level, to play better.
And it also shows you got to think about every possible situation when you're making those loadouts beforehand. So they had a feeling of what was coming and prepared themselves accordingly. And it's really come together nicely on a map like this, where you can get punished tremendously if you get caught out just 1 time or 2 times, since it's so easy to blockade.
And that's a big thing for Makoa. Shellspinner is on a very long cooldown, so he doesn't have a ton of mobility, but with this amount of movement speed, he does. He is flying around the front lines, has any angle he wants to work on. And obviously that weapon, much more easy to use up close. Again, the same fight starting here. Evo Mojo, but blocked all by Immortal.
Another seismic crash, and here's the Ancient Rage Tribute swinging away. Finds one onto Moonchopper. Maybe you can find another. There's a meat grinder right there, but you got to be able to push, not just pull. And this is going to be 27% so far for Renegades. Pick up another one onto Ricotta and Splyce. They're just forced to retreat.
He went for the dangerous hook there. He went for the pip. I think Ruckus would have been a more guaranteed target and a guaranteed kill. But Kliku playing with fire now, starting to maybe feel himself a little bit. He's had a lot of control in this game. 80% already for the Renegades, though. Splyce have to respond and fast.
And one team is going to occupying one side, one on the other, and there's another hit. Nice with the hook to bring in Ricotta. And Splyce, nonetheless, actually standing onto the objective, but you've got both of the frontliners ready to collapse for Renegades. Overtime is set in.
Loki's hitting the quick scopes up close. Stuns are landing. Things are going well for the Renegades right now. And to put it simply, they're on another offense here. They are looking very, very well oiled today, and they are going to be a tough team to stop. They're going to be a tough team, I think, for G2. There's always that element of just like a little bit of a kryptonite aspect there for the Renegades. Even when the Renegades aren't performing super well overall, we always get a good show when they square off against G2.
We mentioned earlier Poison's ability to get aggressive and no fear in that category. But we've seen that across the board with Renegades.
Right.
They've never been afraid to do that, and that's why immediately off of a capture like this, they still move forward. And even if it means a bit of risky play, they've been so clean that the risk just hasn't been as apparent.
Splitstone proving an impossible map to push on here. A lot of damage poured into this Nara. She'll be healed back up in no time here. Have to find the kill. Loki sneaks a nice headshot onto Ricotta, but Moonchopper's already found Hero. And William, very aggressive into the backline. Don't know if he'll find a kill. He actually gives up his own life for that.
Yeah, it looked a little frazzled for a moment when he popped it and was looking around, but Loki, on the other hand, has not looked frazzled. Easily finding his targets, going in without any fear or care in the world, and manages to get a lot of benefit for it. Hero picks one up onto Vayne, but Viral takes a tumble.
Yeah, Ricotta sneaks to the back line, gets what he wants, and then sneaks back out. So that's going to be a long-ish respawn. The Renegades have to wait for this Maldamba to get back to the fight. Loki might be able to find another pick here, though, if they're feeling lucky. True power. It's coming to the back line. It's coming for Loki. Ricotta opens up and gets flashbanged in the face. He's blind. He's blind as a bat. He doesn't know what he's looking at, and Loki just punishes him for it.
And that's what we've talked about with that ultimate. Loki gets that kill. Kliku picks one up as well. But it's a great 1v1 potential. You knew that one was coming. You had yours ready.
Oh, man, that was so sick. That is the exact intention for Flashbang when it was designed. You know, that's, I think, the scenario that Mr. Martini pictured right there. Talus blind as an absolute bat. Had no idea. Loki was fighting on a gourd as well, so he's getting support from the healer. All things looking good for the Ghost Feather.
And Arai picked up a double kill after that. Splyce was able to follow up, just sad. But that was just a sight to be. I'm glad we were able to see every moment of that, because that's not something you want to miss.
That was a fun little 1v1 there. 11 on the clock. Last couple of seconds here. Poison goes down into Planet, takes some return damage. These frontliners from the Renegades, they're not exactly close to the payload. Ricotta goes down here, so they're going to move in. There's an opportunity for an overtime here for the Renegades.
Poison is still moving on forward. You see that Vayne is getting collapsed upon just a bit. Overtime resets itself, and without one flank Splyce, some of their damage potential has been cut off at the seam, but they're setting up to try and keep this high ground on Renegades, because even Kliku's taking a bunch of damage, but gets nice healing from his support.
Moonchopper's got the entirety of the Renegades backline distracted, though. They can't move freely. They can't put pressure onto these front lines. They can't do what they're supposed to be doing. They're completely distracted by the Xin. Meanwhile, Williams found a kill onto Poison. Things are starting to collapse for the Renegades. And you almost have to attribute that to Moonchopper there. He was exactly what they needed, just the distraction value. He didn't really go in, didn't commit, but he was definitely showing enough presence that Poison and Loki weren't feeling comfortable enough to turn away.
So now we're at a 3-3. This is something that can go either way for these teams. As far as itemization goes, really building into some stuff too.
Splyce, they're close on these ultimates, but they don't have them available right away, which is probably going to hurt them. Maybe not so much so, because the way they've been taking these fights up until this point has been rinse and repeat. It's been the same thing for the past 2 rounds, and Renegades have really found a way to just operate around it, especially with Immortal. Their hero has been absolutely on point. No one has died from the engage from Splyce in the past 2 rounds. They need to take a different way, a different route, a different opening strategy here in the 4th and final round.
Here we go. All comes down to one potential capture. Lots of nice slash lines from them as well. Kliku, very similar positioning to what he took before, but Renegades kind of holding back a little bit at this point. They don't want to rush in and then just put everything in their hands. Splyce by Moonchopper. No, Poison was there and ready. There's a seismic crash on that upward angle and manages to get some stuns. Ricotta!
Poison is just having the most fortunate game. People are just putting themselves right in front of walls, but the shots are good. You can't take that away from him. Poison has had an absolute firework performance in game number 2.
There's another one. I feel like he's having kind of those beginning of the movies that just start in slow motion. I'm thinking Deadpool, thinking where it's just
the
that
montage.
He's just, here's it.
He's
there
entered
you
the
go.
zone. He's in a freaking basketball anime. I just discovered that was a thing last night, and it's all
did
just
not know that.
dramatic slow-mo montages. Let me tell you, it's a real magical world out here for Poison. The boys are Renegades. Another big stun, another ton of damage. That chicken makes it around the corner, and Hero's back in this fight.
Viral throws the ultimate as well, separates 2 down for Splice, and Click You, he's still standing strong. Doesn't matter if there's a Vayne right in the middle of them. They're going to have to do something about that eventually, though. And Vayne's running into some trouble right on the last hit. There you go. Loki finds it, and Renegades take game number 2.
This is the start that Renegades were hoping for. They need this clean 3-0 to give them the best possible shot at both the Masters Lands and the Superstars event in Las Vegas next weekend. This is a really defining series for them.
It's not like it's something that they went in expecting the 3-0, I'm sure, as well,
No.
since the last time they saw each other, even though they got the victory, it went all the way to 5. But that was just game number 2 of the set. Let's throw it over to the desk.
Well, incredible set that we witnessed there, and it continues to impress me. I think one of the biggest things, and we just came off of it, so I'd be remiss not to mention it now, Poison's ability to take over that last round. I mean, that was phenomenal.
I don't think we've said his name enough.
I don't think so
we
either.
need to
Definitely
build
not
up
today.
here. Just, that girl is Poison. I mean,
Every week in the casting booth, man. Every week.
We can do a little Bobby Brown after this, maybe. Get a real wide shot. But yeah, he continues to show up. And I think again and again and again we see his impact, Core. I mean, this play killed everyone in the whole round.
And just look, no one's looking at him. Like, no one knows where he is. No one's keeping track of him. By the time they notice him, it's a little bit too late. You've been stunned. You've been shot. You're 1 hit away from dead. And even though he gets low, he's just free firing. No one is keeping track of him. And because of that, you're so focused. Let's get the front lines. Let's get rid of that Strix. He's just having the time of his life. It is a buffet, and he gets everything.
And, you know, the other thing is talking about a buffet, these drafts have looked super tasty for the Renegades. They just keep getting Makoa and Makoa. Turtles on the menu. Who knew it was so delicious? But they're first picking it every time, and they're having the right to first pick this. I think maybe that's the problem that's showing up for me in these drafts.
It comes down to the fact that, again, Makoa can pull you out of position. Doesn't matter who it is. Yes, Ruckus's damage is incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to have him in your front line. But when Makoa continues to pull him into whatever it be, a cripple or a planted from Shaolin.
Or the grinder.
Or the...
I almost forgot about that.
How could we have forgotten about that?
It feels like so long.
Yeah, that displacement is so amazing. And I think the other thing, too, we talked about the pip. We talked about the priority they're putting on it. I think the draft's going a little off. I'd like to see a Makoa ban from Splice. Their bans have been odd to me in the way that they've taken advantage of them. But I think that, you know, it wasn't the same level of pip from Arai that we've seen across the board of the high-tier pips when you think of Cuss Cutie, when you think of Simsalo back in the Fall Land and heading through that Virtus Pro kind of run. Not executing at that same level, although keeping up and healing, it just wasn't as potent, I felt, in the hybrid level of where's the damage, where are the killing blows.
Yeah. I think when you look at the damage specifically, you know, again, Splyce is so flank heavy in their roster, and we were talking about throughout that last game is who was going to pressure the Shaolin and the Strix. I mean, they were opening up their own real estate business back there,
they
just
sure
selling
were.
off land at $1 an acre. So, I mean, now that you have a Kinessa, and this is the interesting thing, Will, because the Strix was absolutely dismantling from Renegade side of things from last game, but an early pick on Kinessa, this really kind of opens up Splyce to attack at all different angles, I think.
And the thing is I feel like Renegades knew. They were like, okay, go ahead, have Kinessa. Like, see what that does. We have Ruckus, now we have Genos.
Yeah.
If you don't take it, you're going to give us Shaolin again. And it's
Yeah.
like at least I'm assuming, know how to deal with it. It's kind of the way Fnatic has been approaching a lot of those games. You don't need to ban the Genos if you know how to deal with it, or if you can use it. Either way, you're going to be a little bit in the lead. But Splyce going for the Grover, maybe trying to adapt in what Renegades have been using.
And this I don't mind because I think they know Renegades have proven potent with the Grover. They've proven potent on this map with the Grover, and I think this is just one of those where you take away these two things that Viral also played Pip on this map as well. And so these are two good picks, I think. They cover your healing bases. You could flex Catalyst if you need to, maybe give a little bit more potency to that pick if you want to just run one more DPS and then two front line and another front line. But you could even keep this and go two front lines here if you want to get the Inara and maybe a Fernando if he's still available.
There's a lot of options, as Splyce looks to finish out their roster. I mean, especially when you consider the fact that even if it is a damage Catalyst Pip, he can still throw out a couple of subsidiary heals, every now and again. So a solo frontline would be more than okay. It just comes down to, is Viral going to be able to have that standout performance to stand up to a Ruckus and Fernando?
Yeah. Big question for me. On the Genos, is that enough to compete against Grover, Pip, and Inara, the biggest healing sponge for some of the best healers here, especially combining both of them? And if it's an Efflorescence, that is going to be tough to beat. They've got to have something up their sleeve. Splyce picking up the buck here, and Renegades now in an interesting spot. No sniper. They have the Fernando Ruckus. They could play aggressive, but if they play aggressive, they're lacking something on the point. So where do they fill out this draft?
I mean, for me, well, I guess it's just going to be Victor. I don't know where they were going to go with it, but one of the big issues, it kind of feels like Splyce are in this area of let's take it away from Renegades.
Yeah.
And this is actually something we saw. Unless this is going to be Efflorescence for Grover, I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near as bountiful as they wanted. I mean, even if you go Ferocity, even if you get that extra damage, it's just not as much healing, I think, as Inara really needs to make her the big talking point, especially alone on that side. No Maldamba noted for them, so she's not going to be able to stand there through all of that damage the same way.
And with a Ruckus Victor, that's just a lot of constant DPS, a lot of constant cauterized application. So, she's going to have to be really smart with her wall placement and make sure that she can break that cauterize to keep herself healed up and make sure that the cooldown, toggling with the damage reduction, their Mother's Grace has to be on point if they want to have a chance to win the point.
Well, we obviously saw Hero invest in that Rejuvenate 3, which resulted in that mid-fight spray in that beautiful round where they took the point. Will Splyce be able to grab that and be able to transcend the solo frontline play to beat these two frontliners in this damage comp from Renegades? Send it over to our casters here to get Game 3 started.
This is Splyce's last chance to keep themselves within this set.
And a really interesting draft, I think, from the Renegades overall. And I have to echo what Shift just said. I mean, I feel like there's going to be this moment where someone gets void gripped, and then the lasers from the freaking Death Star just align on that target. Ruckus, Victor, all Shaolin goes into Planet. They all have Luminary, and whatever the hell just got void grip just evaporates and never comes back. They don't get to respawn. It's a 4v5 for the rest of the game.
I could see that happening for sure.
That's the secret of this Renegades draft, with their powers combined.
We've seen some crazy stuff out of them, so I wouldn't put anything past their capabilities.
But, Void Grip's not a super long duration, but it doesn't matter. Victor, he's somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400 DPS, and probably going to be north of 1,500 once he gets Luminary. Ruckus is 1,000 DPS. Shaolin, not a very high DPS character in general, but, just having that 1,000 burst damage come through and Planet being probably one of the highest single-target DPS abilities in the game. There is so much damage in this Renegades backline. Any missteps here from Splyce is going to be almost certain doom. And that's what makes it really hard for Moonchopper. If he dives in on this backline, they're just going to melt him. I don't feel like he's going to have a ton of great opportunities. He's going to have to be very careful.
This composition really fits Renegade's aggressive style that they've just brought to the table time and time again. Moonchopper's on the buck, hoping to have a little bit of security before he really heavily dives in. But Poison, he's back on the Shaolin, gets a lot of shots into Vayne. Vayne does end up getting some healing after all, but still just shows how that's going to be really impactful over time.
Planted one of the few abilities that can get even Inara to back off in the early game. Incredible damage coming out from Poison already out of the gate, and he's just been pegging this Inara constantly across the map. She's never been able to get healthy. A little angle on Arai. He'll be first blood.
Nice. ClickU does end up falling to Vayne, though. He was low for a little bit, actually, on the side. But there you go. Right in the face of Moonchopper, slouching down low before elimination.
I swear to God, it's a little bit of luck coming in. Everyone is just not aware of the walls, and Poison is absolutely abusing Impale Arrow today. He has found so many stun planted combos and completely deleted big beefy targets that he should have no business playing with.
just so many moments where you almost see this lost look in the eyes of members of Splyce before they fall to something like that. And Renegades are at 96%. They're climbing, sending over someone from Splyce to go ahead and try and stop this Vayne. He's back in action. Maybe Moonchopper can get a little bit of a cleanup, but even a few shots to his own face makes him have to back off for a moment.
Hero just narrowly staying alive as well. Kliku holding down this angle. Viral finds one with time and space. Poison gets another, probably another Impale Planted combo, if I'm guessing. And an overtime will start and end in favor of the Renegades.
That was a nice follow-up onto that through time and space from the entire team. So capture's going to go in their favor. Time for them to push. As far as ultimates go for Splyce, they do have a couple available. Buckwild not too long before it's going to be online. Will Renegade so much value out of their use.
Loki, one of those Victor guys for sure. One of those guys that just has the aim, and I think the confidence to pull off Victor. They're playing well because it's not easy. What?
Save the chicken!
I'm not crazy at this point. Another stun plan, a combo. Poison, I mean, someone from the Splyce has just got to be like, oh, guys, watch out for walls, by the way, because Poison has gotten, I think, every single one of his kills so far off of. Pull up the KDs. How many? I think I've seen 4 or 5 on camera now, and he's 5-1. And so they're just making it too easy for him. He's already having a good day, and when you're putting a wall in front of you and Poison, you're just making it too easy.
There's that into Ricotta trying to get some more kills for him because he's just 1-0 currently. But everybody on the Renegades, they know where the walls are. They know where to go ahead and hide.
Almost got stunned again. I'm freaking out.
So close to it. Jeez. It would have been great if Kliku ended up not dying after 2 and he really did save the chicken through and through. He saved his life for a bit of time, but still, it evened out the trade, which is all you can ask for in some cases. Ricotta picking one up onto Hero, though.
And having the pressure is definitely going to be important for the Renegades because they don't have a ton of sustain with this composition. Genos, he does good healing. He's going to do good throughput over the course of this game, but if they ever get into trouble, they're not going to have that big, meaty burst heal like Pip is going to be able to provide or Grover is going to be able to provide to bail them out of trouble. So the Renegades are very much on their own when they're taking these fights. There's not a ton Viral can do to heal them out.
About 40 seconds to go on this push. Arai has been taken out of the equation, so that leaves it all on Pip in the meantime, but he can still do luck. Like you finds one onto Ricotta, another one onto William, 355. That's a killing spree for this baby. And he's looking for another Moonchopper. Poison gets the last hit onto that one, but Vayne, you're just getting staggered and eliminated. Arai spawned back up, but he alone is not going to be able to protect this.
That's it. It'll go through. Kliku finds a little crack in the defense, weasels his way to the back line, and every single set of missiles in his salvo find a kill. Huge stuff from the Renegades frontliner there, and that's what I'm talking about. It's very lone wolfy right now. They have to kind of play by themselves, operate by themselves. Kliku, he's by himself right now. Poison's close behind him, but everyone else they're on the right side of the map. And they're really spreading out the map, playing a lot of angles and a lot of line of sights because they just have the range to do so. They've got Shaolin, they've got Victor, who just got a tune-up in his fall-off curve, so he's hitting harder from further away. And of course, those missiles, no fall-off involved there, so 500 every time. Kliku connects, and you know he's not missing.
Splyce is lagging behind on the damage. Their slash lines aren't looking as beautiful as they have in times past. And going through this entire season so far, not being able to pick up a victory, that adds a lot of pressure onto this roster. But you're going against Renegades who have not lost any momentum. Oh. That's one from afar. Oh my gosh, even though he doesn't get to follow up on it still, Poison's just getting all these opportunities through time and space right down the middle. And actually hear the ultimate from Grover as well as the Hexafire. Kliku rotating around for that one, but Loki picks it up onto Vayne.
Great job with the Hexafire there. Double Evil Mojo, one chicken fried. Kliku trying to pop back out. Ruckus will survive that onslaught there, but his Hexafire, while not getting any kills, bought space and zone control, so Hero could actually survive that first initiation from Splyce, and it's the team play here overall, coupled with the incredible individual performances that are making Renegades look so scary.
Renegades stopped off at 69% because Vayne made his way to the objective. Moonchopper, despite using the Buckwild, ends up getting taken out by Poison, but Arai is there to have his buddies back. Gets a little bit of revenge, but here's the barrage. Loki looking for some targets. A nice hit onto Arai, but he's still got a little HP to his name and rotates around to heal up his buddies.
Ooh, just barely escapes the sniper sniper rifle from Rukata. Hero finds the kill on the Vayne, and the Renegades just winning the war of attrition here. It's not anyone blowing anyone out of the water, but Renegades just barely edging out for the time being, but Splyce are not going down without a fight.
And there is that overtime. Moonchopper, William, 355, picking up kills. Rukata, he's looking for somebody else as well, knows where Poison is, and Poison does get eliminated by Hi-Rez, so that's a capture for Splyce. They're still in it.
They are on the board here. Comeback mechanic, but the fact that it comes down to 99 to 99 overtime scenario when there's a comeback mechanic in play doesn't give me a ton of hope for the bounce back here for Splyce. They're going to have to fight really hard. They're going to have to take cleaner fights if they want to have a chance at getting a game on the board.
Yep, and right now, grouped together and not getting into the face too much of Renegades until they can maybe get some picks. And that's one right there. Rukata manages to find it onto ClickU, takes off a little bit of that power. And this gives him the okay to move forward. Vayne right down the stretch.
Rukata bunny hopping around, finds an opening shot there, and then finds a cleaning up shot on a Hero. Takes down one of the frontliners from Splyce, who are now backed up into their base, not wanting to get too aggressive here. Splyce starting to find some legs in this game and might have a decent chance at cleaning this one up and moving to a 2-2 scoreline.
Evil Mojo actually used just for the single target in this case. And now with a minute and 20 seconds to go, Splyce, they're still moving forward aggressively. That was just a nice follow-up. Viral, Loki, Hero, all going down. And this payload, it's pushed.
Look at this frontliner go on the flanking Catalyst Pip. Finds a lot of great angles down the stretch there for Splyce and keeps that momentum going. That's what's important to do, because you saw that moment. Yes, Splyce win this fight. The Renegades are back in their base, but that's the moment where they get 5 strong, they recover, and William finds a way to weasel his way in there. And you can't forget about this 3-kill that he had on the objective during overtime. Beautiful movement as well from a guy who's normally playing frontline. This man definitely knows his way around the map with Pip, and that's something you don't get when you don't have experience. So he's definitely, had his day on Pip, I think.
There are certain champions that role players will just flex into. You'll see, as we've seen, supports go and play Shaolin and things like that. But I don't think I ever think of, hey, here's this frontliner player that's playing this Pip. That's super fitting. That feels like something he's played before.
Definitely not moving around the map as well as he does. That's like the make or break thing that I always look at when I see good Pips. The way they know these little spots, these little tricks, these little cheeky things they can do with Weightless. That's the hallmark of a guy that's played some Pip. William will be the first to fall, though, in this engagement. Renegades 2-2 on the scoreboard. They're back to even footing. No comeback mechanic for either team.
So Vayne gets healed all the way back up and makes himself known once more. There's a through time and space right on to the top. But it's 60% for Renegades right now. They're just trying to delay Splyce's entry into the central location. Loki shooting from afar.
That's actually really big there. ClickU got poked super low, and Splyce were not able to capitalize. That's what you don't want to let Renegades do. If you get them on the back foot, you have to keep them on the ropes, because they don't have the sustain to bounce back. If you're letting them disengage, get out of combat healing, that's when they're going to be able to come back into this fight and to punish you.
Oh, Renegades, they get that capture, and you heard the ultimates actually go off. You saw the Buck Wild, but Moonchopper, that's the second time he's used that ult and still ends up just getting fragged down.
And the pressure is remaining high here. Rukata gets very aggressive. He falls down. He won't be back for another 12 seconds. Loki and ClickU continuing the pressure. Arai falls as well. And look at this death squad rolling into the back line of Splyce, keeping them pinned in their base. 2 minutes on the clock, but the payload is already halfway pushed.
That's gonna get your nerves rolling for Splyce, because they have to find some way to open these gates, get out of the spawning area. But ClickU is over here on his current left side. You've got Renegades, the rest of them, ready to pop out behind these walls and these different structures, and Vayne separating with that wall, but nonetheless, the payload has moved through.
Ooh, nice little play there from ClickU. Thinking himself back to the safety of the low ground, at least for the time being. And here's where someone needs to gas pedal from Splyce. When they keep letting Renegades disengage and engage on their own terms, that's what's hurting them in the long run, because, again, Viral can't burst heal anyone up. So when you get somebody low, they have to completely disengage. There's no chance of them bouncing back in this fight.
Oh, man, and look, Everybody on Renegades, they're right on top of the objective in Arai with the Whirlwind, attempted to keep himself in it. Well, there's one chicken going down, or roosters actually in that case. That weapon, and Renegades, they grab the victory for game number 3 and the set.
That's it. That's the 3-0 sweep that they needed. That's the best possible way they could have started. They are still in contention for land, and this was really one hell of a start for them, exactly how they wanted it to go.
I actually forgot I still had this on, but Renegades, their performance was just so chilling that I had to warm up. But let's let the desk warm things up in their breakdown of this game.
Well, Poison, Poison, Poison. We've said his name way too many times today. And for good measure, we're going to keep saying it because he absolutely outperformed. And I think even over his own expectations or our expectations, taking the MVP for the set.
It's just, I mean, who else could it have been? I mean, he's hitting almost every single shot. I almost wish we had an accuracy rating for his Shaolin.
Yeah,
he was hitting so many incredible shots. It's just, when he's having a day like this, it makes you believe that it's possible, for Renegades. This is what you want to see.
Makes you believe anything in life is possible.
You know what? You're not wrong.
If you believe, you can achieve, right, Cor?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that believes he can go to Vegas. He is pushing for it. He is trying to get
Is that what this is about? It's all about Vegas?
I think that's what Poison wants. Dude,
These young men just trying to get out and party.
A free trip to Vegas? I'd play a nice Shaolin if I had a free trip to Vegas.
$100,000. Free trip to Vegas.
Hey.
Okay. There going to be girls there? All right. Show him my Fernando. Show him my Shaolin skills.
Show him the Shaolin. It's, man.
Give her the old Shaolin.
No withdrawal out of that situation.
Yeah, no withdrawal there. Give her the old impale, huh? Hopefully. Or
where
not
are you going
hopefully
with
against
this?
the wall. We'll have to see here. Vegas can get crazy. And this set didn't get as crazy as we would have hoped. Obviously, it was a 3-0, and I think Splyce have another chance here against SK coming up. Obviously, to prove that they are still growing this week. It wasn't the expectation we had for them. They wanted at least probably a game to take from Renegades, but Renegades keep themselves in the running for that top 2.
Yeah, they did everything they had to do. And if you look at Splyce, I mean, we can't stop conversating about them as, that pip was actually pretty impressive, flat out. Like, coming from William, of all players, I definitely didn't expect it.
I mean, just the way they played it, that was not necessarily, like you said, Splyce really playing poorly. I feel like they were still in the same area that they were last week.
Yeah.
It was just Renegades playing insanely well. So going up against SK, looking for it, again, potential to find their first win, but they have to put a lot more, especially after that. I mean, that's a little demoralizing. So going into another match, you're going to be maybe a little bit shaky. You need to look at your drafts, kind of revisit the way you are approaching these fights and change it.
And remember, Splyce has nothing to lose, nothing really to gain either. And Renegades had everything to gain, everything to lose. So maybe a little bit of
pressure.
I think pressure on that side, definitely for sure. Heading into this one, though, let's take a look at the schedule for what we've got upcoming today. SK and Splyce, as I just mentioned, will be match number 2. That'll be coming up shortly for all of you watching. And then we get into the real action. G2 versus Renegades. That one's going to decide so much. And G2 have another chance at the end of the day to face off against Envy, currently the number 2. But Renegades, if they keep playing this way, could definitely change that conversation.
I am so excited to see how G2 comes up into bat against these two teams. I mean, Envy's looking for that revenge after what was a very close 5-game set back in Week 3, and Renegades is just looking to take everybody down. No one's going to stop them in their path as far as they're concerned.
I mean, Splyce, obviously their last game to perform versus SK. Not too much where we can look forward to in terms of results meaning anything, but you hoping for a better performance score?
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting. I actually want to see SK pull out some of the stuff they were pulling out last week. I want to see that get success. I want to see the Vivian. I want to see the Willow.
Yeah.
And I want to see it maybe find a home somewhere in the PPL where it is victorious.
Well, let's see if they'll be able to flutter to victory here as we head into the next set. We're going on a quick break, but we'll be right back with more PPL North American action.